Welcome to The Gap, where it's our mission to bridge the gap between training and on-field performance.
I'm Brett Hart, owner of Hitman Performance.
And I'm Dan Labadia, the owner of Jack Javelin.
Hope you guys enjoy the show. All right. Well, Zach, man, welcome to the show. I mean, we've been talking a lot on social media. You're in my school community, which I think is dope. You're someone that posts very consistently on social media. We've been talking back and forth. But for the people that don't know who you are, we'd love to hear just a little bit of brief introduction, a little bit of background on you as a person, as someone who still wants to train as an athlete and as a coach.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on, Brett, Dan. It's a pleasure. My name is Zach Williams. Right now, I live in Nashville, Tennessee, originally from Jackson, Mississippi. Training wise, I've loved to train for a while. Got really back into it in 2019. As far as interests, hobbies, hunting, fishing, anything outdoorsy, sporty, I love. I spent some time as a ski instructor in Colorado, so I love to ski. And that's kind of where some of my coaching background started, teaching lessons. Clientele was as young as 2 years old up to age 70. So I got a good bit of a coaching experience there, just as far as managing expectations, trying to identify problems, develop skills, and create a good experience. As far as getting into the fitness industry, I started in the gym about 2023, so just a few years ago now, in between jobs. I really was just kind of looking for that next step in life. I love to train, work out, so I figured I'd work for a gym. Got promoted up, wasn't really feeling the sales and management aspect of everything. And so I decided to give personal training a chance. I did that. I liked it a lot. But then I had shoulder surgery like right after I had started training. And it was an interesting time for me because I just announced I was starting my own business, but I'd also just had surgery. So really trying to mitigate and manage that whole process. In 24, as I started to recover, I started taking on more online clients, and then I was still at the gym at that time. And so really kind of like midway through 24, I transitioned out of the gym, just decided to take a leap of faith and test it out on myself. I'd had some online clients, had some success. So was working mainly online during that time because I didn't have any space to operate out of. Sometimes I would um do some one-offs in parks or rec centers, things like that. But and also I'd end up switching my niche from just gen pop sort of clientele to really wanting to work with athletes and getting into high performance training. And so that's when I flipped that script there, and I basically had to start from scratch again because the people that you're trying to reach, athletes, are you can't really reach them all online. It was just an interesting play for me. But anyway, I'd had a business coach. I had a business coach in 24 with the gym pop, made a decent amount of money, recouped it. And then I decided I wanted to go into sports performance and athletic training. And actually, I worked with Overtime Athletes, OTA, and they're really good resource for me still. I've been there in person. I know Chris Barnard, Emily Rail, the whole crew, so they're great. But I hired one of them to train me one-on-one when I was wanting to get back into sports performance training because I hadn't really done anything like this seriously since I was a high school athlete. So, it was just a long time. Yeah, if I really want to coach and train others and really be a valuable resource, I feel like I have to do it on myself. And so that's when I really got back into speed, strength, and power, getting faster, really working on progressing my compound lifts. And that's when I really did a lot of jump training too, just kind of learning the ins and outs of that. So that was a good time for me. And then at 25, that's when I wanted to acquire some property, but where I was at with my business, just wasn't too sure that I'd be able to go and get a facility myself. Like I didn't feel like I was mature enough. And also I just didn't feel confident enough that, you know, because it would cost me like, maybe close to 10 grand overhead each month. And so like if I couldn't recoup that in a few months, I'd be screwed. So that's when I got into my storage unit facility. And I actually just got out of that, or I just sold my last squat rack today. So I'm kind of in a transition period with all that. I know I've been rambling a while, but that'll just kind of give everyone a brief overview of, my training slash coming into the fitness industry, if you will.
Talk a little bit about that storage unit because I know you just posted about leaving it. What was that decision process like? What made you decide, all right, now's the time to maybe put this to the side, scrap this, and then start over again?
Yeah. It's really just strictly business, to be honest. It's not generating any profit from a or net profit. So I can't just keep doing it. I mean, yeah, it's been cool and it's been a nice experiment and everything, but at the end of the day, you just gotta be objective with everything that's going on and cut your losses. It was just really challenging to try to operate out of a storage unit first and foremost. And it was a 20 by 10. It wasn't anything special, but I still used the parking lot for speed and jump training, and but it was mainly just ones and twos and just trying to scrap for some small groups if I could. So it just wasn't the long-term play. And I moved there specifically as kind of a trial testing period. I'd had a connection uh through OTA. This guy was out in Amarillo, Texas. He had a huge warehouse unit that he was killing it with it, but it's a little bit different in Amarillo. He just had, I mean, I don't know how big this thing was, but it was significantly bigger than mine. Multi-car garage. He had turf in there. He had squat racks. And then, of course, in Amarillo, he's got really good weather year round. So I think that really helped him out. But I talked to him. I just thought I would try it out. And it didn't really work the way I planned. So, that's why we're cutting it and moving on.
Do you know Dak Performance and Health? You ever seen his stuff?
Sounds familiar.
He was on the podcast. He's actually, I think, our second or third best episode. It was a pretty good episode, but he operates out of a storage unit and he had done it in the past and then moved out and then went on to something else and then now he's in like a bigger one and it's very bare bones, literally as of like 2 weeks ago. So maybe that would be someone that we could connect you with too to like, just pick his brain about how he went about it and what he did. Because I mean his evolution's been really cool. We've been following him for like 5 years and he just now has two, I think, full-time employees and that's the same thing. He does basically mostly all online and operates out of storage units. And, he was in one and then stopped it for a period of time and grew his business. And then now he's in a bigger one or doing something. So it'd be interesting to pick his brain about that process.
That's right where my head went when you were talking about that stuff because his videos are just literally, it looks like a garage, like a regular garage, and now he's got that bigger facility. I'm sure you've
Yeah.
seen his videos though.
I'll have to check him out. Man, I'd love to connect with him. And don't get me wrong, I think it's definitely something that can work. It's been proven. It's just you have to have the right mindset and you have to have just the right experience or whatever the case is to make it work. But the thing that's interesting when you operate a business out of a storage unit, you meet a lot of interesting individuals that are doing some things that are somewhat similar to yourself. Like this lady that was next to me, she operated a full resale of furniture, all that sort of equipment out of a storage unit. And she had started her business out of that same facility that I was a part of. And she had worked her way up she had 17 units at one time. And she was just constantly flipping chairs, sofas, dining equipment, and she's got her own facility now. And I'd also meet people in there who use those units for an audio studio, and I'd hear them, playing, setting up their band gigs and stuff like that. You just meet a
Podcast
lot.
studio.
I don't know if I've never met a podcaster in there, but I mean, you never know.
Don't give me any ideas.
We gotta upgrade this place. That's interesting. That's really cool. That's what I really love about this podcast and with social media and being able to talk with other coaches because if you go through school, it seems like there's a very structured path in what to accomplish. But then you get into the real world and reality. There's people doing a bunch of different things that are still seemingly making it work, which I think is really cool. And I think that can go to training, business, coaching. There's a lot of ways that you can go and be creative about it and then still get that outcome that you want.
Yeah, that's really the reality of starting a business and entrepreneurship. You just got to take risk and really just fail a lot and see what doesn't work and just keep going and take inventory along the way and make the necessary adjustments.
Zach, how old were you when you started training like an athlete? Like since you said you stopped after high school and then you started working with overtime athletes, how old were you when you started working with them and transitioning there?
That was just in what's that? 24. So I was 28. I'd had so I'll kind of back it up a little bit because when I got back into training fitness pretty hard was 2019. And that's when I was a big Athlete X disciple at the time. So that I'd seen some of their stuff, his Jeff stuff in college when I was trying to, I'd gotten fat, drinking too much, just kind of letting myself go and wanting to make some changes. And you take some stuff from YouTube and it's funny because I was looking at some of the questions that Brett sent me, and I forgot about this, but I remember I first like got back into it looking at bodybuilding.com, and I remember doing Steve Cook's Big Man on Campus uh program while I was in college. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I was on Athlete X starting in 2019. I got really good results and I continuously progressed, but I really didn't know much about progressive overload. I wasn't really tracking my weight and my sets. So my strength gains were definitely capped. I was still in really good shape. I mean, I cut a lot of fouls and I was looking good. But my I wasn't doing really any serious speed training, not a lot of jump training, just like, working out to tick off boxes and feel good. So really got back into athletic training seriously would be with OTA and in the summer of 24. That's when I really started trying to get fast again. I hadn't been fast since high school. You pull some hamstrings playing intramural softball and college and then post. It just it makes you question yourself a lot and like really like I can't be letting this happen. Like I got to get this shit figured out. So
So, what would you say to other people listening to this? Maybe some other coaches who have dedicated so much time and energy into their coaching career, or they're, seemingly they feel washed up in their late 20s, early 30s, and trying to get back into it. What advice would you give them?
well, first of all, I would say don't read into the bullshit because that doesn't just because you're not competitive anymore or you're removed from your playing days, especially if you're still in your 20s, like you're still in your prime. The whole connotation that everything's downhill after a certain age, especially once you hit 30, is just ridiculous. I'll just get that out of the way. But it's also, I mean, you see a lot of people, especially on social media. Of course, people are posting stuff. You see all these influencers or people post about their business, like they're getting in some of their best shape and their best performance of their life, and they're late 20s, 30s, and beyond. So obviously, it can be done. It's just I would say this, if you really prioritize training like an athlete and really wanting to get back to that level when you used to play, doesn't matter if you didn't play college, even if you just played high school. Like if you want to get really fast, you want to jump really high, you need to set certain goals, whether it be dunking, whether it be having a certain vert, whether it be, getting your 40-yard dash to a certain time. If you don't have any sort of concrete goals in place, then you say, oh, I'm gonna go sprint, a couple days. Like you're gonna be limiting yourself. So definitely have some sort of measure markers. And then two, something that's helped me a lot is, invest in yourself. Buy someone else's program and run it all the way through. It doesn't no one cares how much you could lift in high school. No one cares how fast you used to be. That's a long time ago. You need to go back and look at yourself from ground zero if you're trying to get back and perform like an athlete. Follow someone's program who generates a lot of success and has proven testimonials and practices what they preaches and puts it on social media and run it all the way through. And I think that that just makes a huge difference. And then also it's not expensive to buy someone's program. Like if you don't know what you're doing, quit doing a bunch of random shit like just because you think you know what you're doing, you're just looking stuff on YouTube. You know what I'm saying?
What are some of your favorite programs that you've purchased and ran personally?
So I would say recently I did Blaine McConnell's unit combine program. That was in the fall, and that guy's a freaking animal. So I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna follow this. I'm gonna run this dude's program. And I got really good results. It was 3 months, ran a 4.6 laser, and I'd pulled a hamstring. I'd pulled a hamstring towards the beginning, right after I'd PR'd a 10-yard fly. But I came back. I mean, my power clean skyrocketed, best ever had been. I'd still maintain a strong bench. Yeah, everything just went really well. Vert was really good. So, of course, his was awesome. And then overtime athletes, the first time I ran, I had a one-on-one with one of the coaches over there, Jordan, put me through a personalized one-on-one program. That was when I broad jumped about 10 feet 5 inches, which was phenomenal for me. And I increased that from not even 9 feet the month prior. So I was just learning a lot of how to develop speed and power by running all these programs. Everything I'd done previously was just mostly hypertrophy or strength based, which is great. But I wanted to be explosive and I wanted to be able to use that data on myself to translate over to those who, actually coach in person or online. And it's those two definitely stand out.
What would you say has been more successful for you in terms of experimenting on yourself? Is it having a dedicated season to running and jumping and then a dedicated season to hypertrophy and strength? Or is it this concurrent model where you're kind of trying to do everything all at once and just be super well rounded?
I would say since I've gotten back serious into athletic and high performance training, it's been well rounded. But that's really just me being more of an intermediate level coming in. Now that I've gotten to the point where I feel like I'm more advanced, I do realize that, I do have to implement periodization and have different focuses, on strength or on speed for a particular program, in my opinion, to really push the needle because once your lifts get to a certain point, or once you're running a certain speed or a certain time, or jumping 35 inches or whatever, it's really freaking hard to keep getting better. And so you just have to pick something that you prioritize for a certain period of time where, okay, like for instance, right now I'm really focused on just building strength and putting on some size. So I'm just eating a lot of food, really trying to get my compound lifts back up. Once I complete that, I'll just probably move into something else that's maybe more speed focused. And I think it just gives you variety. You're not bored doing the same thing over and over again. But it just depends on the individual. Like, if I'm coaching a high school athlete or if I bring on, someone who's gym pop that just wants to get back into performance training, like don't go super crazy. Just, do like a 3x5, have them sprint a couple times a week, jump a couple times a week. So it just really depends on the individual. But I think for me going forward, it's definitely trying to prioritize what's most important to me during this span of time and really hammering it on the program model.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. One agreement of doing other people's programs. I mean, I feel like I've learned the most. Like I got a full degree in exercise science, did a bunch of internships, And I still to this day will say doing other people's programs has been the most influential and just it has the biggest return on investment, both physically, I'm getting better physically and getting the goals that I want to achieve, but it's also making me think differently. And I just wanted to shout out Chris Bernard because that was one of the biggest influences for me personally in high school, like watching all his videos, watching his sprint training with Bo Bichet and being with Elliot
Were you
Hulse.
were you following him when he was still strength count?
Yeah, with Elliot, with
Okay.
Elliot, and then they were doing like the 100 reps of curls, and I just remember a random dude came by and was like, "You got to control the weight," and then Elliot's screaming at me like, "You can't control for 100 effing reps," and like they're just like shirts off, ripping. Like that's what it almost gives me like that DeFranco vibe. It's like that's what
Yeah.
just got me really into strength conditioning, which I think is just missing now because I think everyone's trying to make it look too pretty, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. That and I don't know. I think the whole everyone, especially with all these tools and devices we have now, just like being science disciples, I think that can kind of get in the way of things at sometimes.
Go into that a little bit more. Go into because I feel like this is gonna get into a topic that I want to talk about. Like what is a little bit of a pet peeve that you're seeing on social media and about the industry as a whole right now?
I mean, of course, a lot of things I see, these coaches have a lot more experience than me, but I think just confining yourself to validating results or success with the individual or the athlete based on what they're putting out on the force plates or what their vertical jump is or how fast they run a 40-yard dash. I think it can just get in the way of what's important because at the end of the day is what we're doing is especially if you're training athletes, like is it translating to on-field performance or not? I think that's the most important thing to look at. And so I just think that, you know, I kind of lost where I'm going with that, but I just think that there's a lot more to training than, how fast you run a 40 or 5 10 5. It's just like we don't if you look at the NFL combine, for instance, you have some of the fastest guys run a 4 2 4 3. People flipping out, they get drafted and they just suck at football. So it's just good to look at the data, but it's not the end all be all. That's all I'll say.
You ever seen that meme page? I think it's called Bradley Barbell.
No, I've never seen this one.
But he posted something and it's like that video of the dude walking out onto the stage, like all hyped up. And he was saying, and the caption was, when everyone on the team's back squat got better, but the team went 0 and 12 or something.
Yeah, yeah, I've
And
I've
the
I've
strength
seen
coach,
that.
yeah,
I've
the
seen that
strength coach
meme.
getting hype when everyone's back squat got better, but they went 0 and 12.
Well,
It
then
was just, I mean, I
I
think
see.
that
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that that's kind of like what you're getting at there is like how a lot of times you just see people just getting hype about the bar speed and the metrics and all this stuff, but you're not translating to the field. And, I mean, we've had people talk about that with Olympic lifts or bench press and how these certain things that people put so much value in don't always translate to being better at the sport. So,
Yeah. Well, but I would say so. I think that improving on certain metrics, like for me, that's going to be a lot better just because I'm not playing college football, so it doesn't really matter. Like, hell yeah, I want to run a 4 4 and bench 315 and all that. But for someone, this is actually their their job is their performance on the field or on the court. I mean, of course, we look at certain metrics that are more likely to transfer over and help them be a better basketball player or whatever the case is, but doesn't necessarily correlate with it. So it just depends on the individual. With a lot of gym pop and weekend warriors, yeah, like those, especially if they're just running programs, that's how you're gonna dictate success. So it just depends on the individual, I would say. But I know but with the whole barbell mean, I've seen just a handful of like high school strength coaches is like maxing out on a reverse lunge and the kid's almost falling over and is like he's got like a crooked ass spine and just doing stuff like that just
Yeah,
is wild.
I think I I got into a little bit of a beef with a high school coach once. Brett's probably surprised by me saying that, but I think it was I think he was talking trash about either on me or Brett or the podcast post, and then I went to his page and his first post was really going to be starting to post more on here, really like it, really going to see where I could take this Instagram thing. And then the next post was like a year later, and I went and commented on that and was like,
Oh, I remember this.
I was like,
Yeah.
good job, like really showcasing your testimonials on this page, like nice work, keep it up. And then he was just like, he got so mad and all this stuff. And then I mean, I just look at social media as like, if you have information and you're not sharing it with others to help them out, and you're not just trying to use your experience to help other people, then at the end of the day, not to be morbid, but you're going to take information to the grave with you one day. And it's like, I want to be able to just, any experience that I've had, any knowledge that I have, any wisdom that I have, I want to be able to share it with maybe not everything on social media, but at least have a funnel where people can come to me, and then I'll be able to help them, because that's where I look at it. It's like, it's not just about, showcasing that you're better, but there's always somebody out there that, no matter the imposter syndrome you have, there's always someone out there that knows less than you do, that could be looking to you as an example, or looking up to you as what to accomplish one day. And I mean, there's so many people out there, and I think that if you just have that help first mindset, that's the way to go.
I like how you put it that way because, you know, getting active on social media, especially if you're trying to use it for business purposes, brand, if you're not trying to help others, if you're not trying to provide value for free, if you're just gatekeeping information, you're not going to grow and develop your page first and foremost, but people are not going to want to, come to you for business. Like you just got to give as much stuff away for free as you can, and everything else will fall in place based on, your knowledge, your proven results, and your just authenticity of actually trying to provide a service for your clientele, your target market, your following, the athletes that you're trying to work with. And that's something that I've realized, and something that, I'm trying to emulate more and more. If being active on social media, I don't like it. Like I don't want to post shit. Like it's just stressful, and I just don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just putting shit out there, and but you just got to get over that fact. And I've tried to ask myself more and more, who your target audience is, who am I as a brand, as a person, what information can I get out, from my training, or, others that I've coached, whether it be athletes or just a regular person or an amateur athlete. Like one of my best clients, honestly, has been my dad. He's 60 years old now, but uh, I trained him when he was my one-on-one client for a couple different 3-month stints. Yeah, he won an amateur national championship tennis tournament last or 24, and he's still sprinting, still jumping, and like using different information like that have generated success that I've worked with an older gentleman, my dad, and he's still performing at a high level, and this is what we're doing, and this is how we're doing it. It just makes you much more credible.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to as well what you were saying about you being a ski instructor, how you're working with 2 year olds and then all the way up to 70 year olds. And I think that just is a really valuable skill as well, especially as a coach, of just being able to see what different age groups and different skill levels can handle, and how to go about progressing each person on the spectrum.
It's huge. I mean, just to share my experience a little bit, I started with youth kids. I've always coaching in some capacity for strength conditioning or sports performance. And it was 8 to 12 year olds just running around screaming their heads off, and you're just trying to control chaos as much as you can. But then when we were talking before the podcast and how me and Dan got affiliated with each other and we were working underneath the same roof, I was thrown into being in charge of the adult program that like recently just started at the gym. I've never trained anyone older than me at the time. I had no idea any type of adult training or what how to even speak that language to them. And then I kind of realized it's kind of speaking just like how you would to a professional athlete or an elite level athlete. Your goal is to make them move and feel better and not get them hurt. Like it's and then I think getting that context and understanding that and almost forcing yourself out of your comfort zone levels you up as a coach, as a communicator, and then kind of helps funnel that all the way into social media that I have the background knowledge of being able to speak on these things. You can see things a little bit differently. And then now you're a little bit more comfortable posting. Because for me, posting was nothing natural. Like I hated posting. You were talking about that and it made me think because I was scrolling back because I get stuck in this paralysis by analysis. There's some days I have no idea what to post. So I'll just scroll all the way down. And I made a post 2.5 years ago from a Will Vertell quote that I heard from him on the Austin Yoakum podcast about every Instagram post is like a lottery ticket, and every post is your chance to win the lottery and go viral or whatever. And that post got 1,000 views and 40 likes, and I was talking about that topic, and then it was just crazy to be like, oh wow, this was actually a good message, but just no one saw it. So that's I think very important to talk about and to speak about the struggles of social media as well, just as a coach, because it's very hard to care about so many different things all at once. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't know. This might be kind of stereotypical, but being just an average guy, like I feel like we didn't come up with a lot of like our last post would have been years ago and just would have been like a picture of like us with a few friends or like back in the day like an unfiltered picture of your food like just like shit just like shit like that where it just getting into like the editing trying to edit then you try to research hashtags and captions and all this shit but at the end of the day like I'm just really just trying to be consistent trying to get a message out across and then of course taking information from a lot of people that I follow who give me value, as far as people in the industry, of course, Brett, I like a lot of your stuff and Dan, I'll check out your stuff, but
It's not
just,
that good. Unless
it's,
you like throwing javelin, it's not that
I mean, I looked at your
good.
website. It's pretty sick. Your website's pretty cool. But honestly, just taking inventory from people in your industry that you admire, that you look at their videos, their reels, you get ideas from. You don't copy them, but they just give you a little bit of inspiration. I've sent you like some of the notes on the questions that you said we were going to go through. Some of the guys that I follow a lot on Instagram, Joe Padula, Blaine McConnell, Tim Riley. Austin Yoakum, Will Rattel, of course, overtime athletes. I get a lot of good, valuable information from those guys, and so I just try to ask myself what I like about stuff that I see from them, and try to emulate in a way that I can not copy, but just use it as a template to help me, reach my audience.
I see you commenting a lot on a lot of these
Yeah, I saw that.
people because we follow a lot of the same people, and every post it just seems like your name's just always there commenting.
Yeah.
Is that intentional? Are you like trying to get outside your comfort zone and like to comment more just so your name keeps popping up, or is it just you just being like doom scrolling, being like, oh, this is sweet?
Oh no, it's totally intentional.
Hmm.
So one, I feel that if I'm going to be on social media, I know from a personal standpoint how much I'm not really thrilled to be on social media. And so I know a lot of individuals feel like just posting, they just feel like they have to post, post, post. So like, well, I like these guys. I get a lot of value from them and I just want to, start show my support. So yeah, I'm going to comment on their stuff. But also too, my name's on and their comments more people are going to see my page more than likely. So it's just kind of a win-win situation. I really just when I'm on now, everyone kind of has their doom scrolling moments, but I'm there to post. I'm there to engage with people that engage on my stuff because I want to show my support, but also people that I follow that give me value that I just want to ping some comments on, and then I'm off. So that's just kind of the whole mindset behind that. And one of my previous business coaches, he was like a social media guru. One of our KPIs was something about engaging on X amount of posts each day. I don't know if it works or not, but it doesn't really take that much extra time for me to throw some comments. If I'm gonna click the like button, I might as well throw them a comment.
I mean, we always joke about the like, comment, save, like immediately as soon as one of your friends
Oh yeah,
posts.
the algorithm.
Yeah, got
Be-
boosted up, repost.
Yeah, that's right.
You said you got a business coach. Is that something you feel comfortable talking about on here? Because I mean, that's something I'm pretty interested in, but I've never actually hired anyone before.
Yeah, sure. So I started with I currently do not have one, but I started with a business coach in 24. That's when I was only a handful of months into my coaching and new business journey, and me hiring a business coach, of course you get ads and whatever, and I just seen some people that I follow that was gravitating toward this business coach. I was like, well, I'll hit him up, see what happens, blah blah blah. Anyway, I decided to hire him just because that was also me really committing myself to this because you're paying someone money. You want to protect your investment. So me getting a business coach was like, all right, well, I just paid him, $5,000 or whatever the case is. So I can't back out now. I have to do this shit. And so that was just really a commitment standpoint for me. And it worked out well because it really got me out of my comfort zone. I was very uncomfortable with all the stuff they were asking me to do social media wise, like just the sales process with that's when I was still mainly working with Jim Pop, but I learned a lot about what software tools I should utilize and they had a whole script for sales calls and everything. We're also in a community too, so you got to be connected with a good network. I mean, yeah, I paid for it, but it worked out because I recouped the money, fairly quickly. And then after that, when I got into high performance and sports training, after I'd worked with overtime athletes on that 4 month, just training myself, I came back to them. Of course, they'd hit me up, and I was like, well, I think I'd like to do their business coach and see what happens because I'm just trying to work with athletes now. That's my priority, and so I feel like I need that, and so I did that with them. I mean, it worked out great. Just the essence of I learned a lot. That was a whole inspiration behind for me getting the storage unit just because one of my connections in there had, his storage unit in Amarillo. So that just gave me a lot of good ideas. And of course, I got to go to their facility in person, meet with all of them in person. I have their numbers and everything. So it works out well. It's not at the end of the day, yes, you want it to make you money for your business and, help you leverage and scale beyond where you're currently at. But you also paying for, I won't know if paying for the experience is the correct way to term it, but you're getting a lot more out of it than just, okay, I'm paying you $5,000 or 6,000, $7,000, whatever. What can you do for me and what can you do for my business? So if you think about it more of how can they help me as an individual and try to navigate this space, then I think that it'll pay off in the long run. And then if it doesn't, get your money another way and be objective on, what you did. Did you run their program correctly? Did you fully invest yourself into showing up to every meeting and call? So I think there's a lot more to it than here's the money, scale my business.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really cool to hear because I mean, I think that initially, like $5,000 sounds like so much, but then when you think about how you're already invested in this business that you're doing, and there's people that pay 40, 50, $60,000 for general education at a college university, it's like that's crazy to me because like it's I mean obviously I went to college, I went to a state school, so mine was probably more around 20 grand a year, but it's like the knowledge that I've learned by networking with other coaches online, reading a handful of business books, listening to a couple business podcasts, and then just for me, like I'm actually flying out to a javelin camp tomorrow. Like I go to multiple javelin camps a year because there's no one really out there that's like teaching like how to run a javelin business. I'm sure general coaching business would apply equally as well, but it's like that's where I save most of my money is traveling out to like, strength coaches have conferences. I like to go to javelin camps. And so I just think that it's crazy because it's like the human mind is like, oh, $5,000 is such a big investment for business coaching. But it's like how many people spend 60 grand a year on a college education that they're, like they always say, it's like if you're getting taught business in college, a lot of times you're getting taught by a business teacher, not someone that actually owns a business. So it's just interesting how the human mind can just deem what's valuable and what's not valuable. And it's like, I think that informal education can be so much more valuable than that formal education and that certificate and that diploma or that degree.
Yeah, I like that. Kind of feeding off of that because at least for me, I know for a lot of people, we were programmed, to go to college, get the 4 year education or whatever, then have it all figured out, then go get a job, climb the ladder. And then, whether you get a scholarship or you take out a loan, student loans, that it's not cheap. Or if your parents, if you're lucky enough for your parents pay for it, but still it's not a cheap thing. And then you've got individuals that go on to law school, go on to med school, thousands and thousands and thousands, thousands of dollars that they're going to continue to pay off until they get into their practice. And then, they'll be able to make even, maybe, I don't know what year, 30s, late 20s, whatever. And that's if it all works out. But it's at the opposite end, if it's starting a business or taking a risk on yourself just by taking out maybe you take out like a small $10,000 loan where you try to start bootstrap something from scratch. And if it doesn't work, you just take those experiences and those failures and you can apply it to either your next business or your next career move. Whereas if you go to school, then you go to school after you go to school, that's just thousands and thousands of dollars, but you don't have any real world experience yet. And so I just think that it's a shame that there's not as that's that level of encouragement and incentivization. I don't even know if that's a word, but to incentivize you to, take a chance on yourself, take a small loan, go try to start a business, try to start a side hustle, because at the end of the day, is it risky? I mean, maybe, but it's really not as risky as continuing on this career path, where if you don't continue on that career path, you're going to be in the hole, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's something I always say is being able to do it full time is the best service you could do to your athletes because then you're fully focused on it. I mean, there's so many people that do what we do as a side hustle. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but with that comes distractions because that's not where 100% of your attention is being focused.
It's terrifying though. I'll be the first one to say it's going on your own and doing your own thing. In my experience, and I'll be completely honest, it was very scary because again, like you were saying, going up the ladder, exercise science, CSCS, everyone's saying, oh, what college you're gonna work for, what organization you're gonna do, what gym are you gonna work at, and then for some reason, always in my gut and like my initial gut feeling was like, I want to open my own thing. I was like, a lot of these people aren't going to tell me how to do that. And they almost don't want you to do that because you don't need a CSCS to do that. You don't need a exercise science background to do that. Like anyone could go take out a loan and open up a gym, and whether it be successful or not, like doesn't really matter. But the amount of gyms that have popped up in this area over the past 5 years is almost bizarre. And then within those 5 years, how many of them closed? Like, they just apparently the barrier to entry to opening those gyms isn't that hard. But for me, it was that self-limiting belief, seeing stuff on social media. You see guys that are just absolutely crushing it, presumably, but then you kind of get on the inside scoop and they're not doing as well as they seem. And that for me, I think was a little bit of that shell shock moment, that aha moment, being like, "Ah, I guess I could do this and I guess I could figure it out." And then that fear is kind of all just inside my own head, because all my programming was to tell me to stay within the confines of what you learned. And it's like, well, all this is brand new. Like hiring a business coach, like that's brand new. Sales, marketing, making your social media be top of funnel and then going to a paid product. Like you're convincing strangers to buy your stuff, and you're like, I don't even know if this stuff's that good. I don't know. That's your thought process. That's my thought process, at least.
Yeah. Where are you in your own facility now?
No, I'm currently renting out space. So my goal eventually down the road is to have enough money, one, saved up, to open up my own facility.
Tell me a little bit about your experience with renting out space, because that's something that I had looked at before getting the storage unit. And a lot of these biz or gym owners that I was talking to, really, first of all, there's not really many like sports performance facilities here that aren't very commercialized and mainstream. So it's kind of hard
Hmm.
to finagle your way in there. But like I talked to CrossFit gyms, just any gym that had enough space about renting, and what they wanted from a session by session basis or a percent of revenue. It just really didn't seem feasible to me.
I would say I was very fortunate and lucky for Dan to connect me with with the facility I'm at now. It is just one check I write once a month for overhead, and I have access to the gym, and I can come in and have my own schedule throughout it. They don't take money from the client per session, they just take the overhead, whatever it is. And then I went to another gym just this past week just to reach out. I mean, we talked a little bit on Instagram, then I realized he's 2 minutes down the road, and we were talking, and his experience with renting out space, because that's what he all wanted to do, is that there's just a lot of ego in the mind of a strength conditioning coach. And so I got very lucky, but from his experience, he's much older than me, but him telling me the story, he essentially said I'm doing what he wanted to do, was everyone wanted it to be under them. Like he wanted to be their brand, their image, their likeness. Like if you don't do it my way, then you're not going to be able to rent out space here. So he eventually just kind of just bought his own thing and like took out a loan and like had to do that. So I think it definitely depends on the area. I would say I'm very fortunate and lucky to be at the spot I'm at now. Like yeah, it's not the end goal, but for what it's worth, I think it did its job. And I'm sure you can, if you talk to other strength coaches in the industry that are all trying to do that same thing. I know DeFranco started in a room that was about this size. Ben Bruno out in Cali has his closet that is about 300 square feet. Like not, and then the people at Varsity House, which I've talked to, it said they took them 12 years to grow into their 15,000 square foot facility. So all that stuff is just very area dependent, business dependent on what you want to do and build out. And then for me, I'm still trying to figure out what is the next step past just renting out space.
How long have you been in your current facility?
Couple months, like four, six,
Oh, damn. Okay,
around
that's
6 months.
fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I would say is because where we're at now, I'm renting only for the winter because I do javelin lessons from March until Thanksgiving, and then basically after Thanksgiving until the end of February, I'm indoors where Brett's at right now. But I know the owner from my church, and they just opened up in April, so I think that that's another big thing is like looking for a newer gym that's just opened. That's like, all right, well now between me and Brett renting out a month, it's like we're helping them start their business up, and they don't even have to worry about getting clients, especially because they're more class focused. So they'll have 2 morning sessions and then 2 afternoon sessions, and then the whole middle of the day, or then like after 6 o'clock at night, and then all day Saturday, all day Sunday, the gym's just empty. So it's like then you get people like me and Brett in there working with like 10 clients a week. We pay them, and then they're able to look at it as a win-win because the space wasn't being used anyway, and now it's being used, and then we're documenting it on social media, helping them grow a little bit there, and then we're paying them to use it when otherwise they wouldn't be getting that revenue anyway. So I think that looking for, I mean, this area that we're in has a ton of sports performance gyms. So we're lucky in that sense because out of the 50 in our radius here of whatever, how many ever miles, but there's obviously one that worked out. But it's like, I think having a newer facility that's like willing to be like, hey, you're going to help us get started and pay our bills. Sure. And then also like a place that is newer, isn't going to be as busy, so you're not conflicting with their time schedule as much. So like if it was overtime athletes and they're booked from 5 a.m. till like 8 p.m. at night, and it's like, all right, you want to rent space, it's probably going to be more expensive. It would be way more expensive. They probably wouldn't even allow it because they're probably booked all the time, right? And then versus a place like ours who's kind of just getting off the ground, and it's we're just helping them fill that space up, I guess.
So Dan, you and Brett are in the same facility.
Yeah, Brett started before I did because I made the connection like when they opened up because I knew the guy from church.
Okay.
But
We can't be separated, no matter what
yeah,
facility.
Yeah.
We're a package deal.
Apparently,
We're a
apparently.
package
yeah.
deal.
But then like I said, for me to do javelin lessons, like we just throw a ball at the wall right now, and then I'll have them like lift weights and stuff like that afterwards, and we could work on the approach on the turf. But I don't need the indoor space or the weight room really until I can't go outside anymore just for the winter. So.
So what is just curious, what is the talent pool as far as the amount of athletes that, are available to you just focus on javelin, like in your area?
So I always say that I think when you're essentially a monopoly and you're really good at what you do and you've built a system around what you do, people will find you. Because I would say 3 years ago, no one in Connecticut really got javelin coaching. There was like maybe one private coach in the area, but like I said earlier, it was like a part-time side hustle. You got like one group on a Sunday afternoon because that's when the guy might have been available and whatnot. But then now someone like me who has a training app, has a camp each year, has multiple groups per week, has an open calendar of one-on-ones, and then I also offer remote training for when my athletes are here in the summer and then go away to college in the off season. They could follow a program in the app and then do the Zoom sessions over Zoom as well in the off season. So I've really built a good system. So like last year I had about 60 athletes that I worked with one on one. I would say that I had a lot of kids come from the New York, the New Jersey, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire area come down to Connecticut to work with me just because, there's probably one or two private javelin coaches in New England. And so I've been able to really just make that brand for myself. And like I said, people are willing to pay it and travel pretty far to work with you when you're known to be really good at what you do. So, I mean, I've worked with kids throwing 100 feet and I've worked with a kid throwing 280 feet and going to the Olympic trials. So, yeah, I mean, like literally it's been all over the place. Like that athlete that we went to the Olympic trials, he won the Division II national championship and broke the D2 record. And then there's some other kids that they are, they throw 100 feet at their first competition and they get obsessed with it, and then they want to see improvement, so they come and start working with me one on one there too. So it's definitely a wide range, but I mean that's just like I said, it's a benefit of kind of being well known at what you do and being very niche.
Yeah. Yeah, that's sick. So what would be, just curious, your ratio from the amount of athletes that you work with in line versus like a remote consulting type of environment?
You said online versus like
Or excuse me,
consulting.
in person versus
Okay.
online.
Yeah, so I would say last year the majority was definitely in person, like one on one. But, in terms of like I have a velocity program that I have through my app, and then I have like my one off strength programs that I sell in my app as well. So like if you consider those athletes that are working with me, like I would say I probably have twice to three times as many of those athletes as I do in person, but I'm not in as close communication with those athletes because essentially they're paying for the do it yourself service rather than me done for you or done with you service. Because that's how I look at it. It's either done for you, done with you, or do it yourself. And that's what the majority of my online is, the do it yourself stuff, and the majority of my in person is one on one. So now I have 4 one on one online clients. It's January, so that'll probably go up to closer to like 10 during the season or thereafter. But, the in person stuff is definitely like I always think that in person coaching, word of mouth spreads a lot faster because it's like, for example, last year at the high school New England's, or at the high school state open, right? The top 6 finishers, 5 of them were kids that I worked with. So those are the top 6 athletes in the state. 5 of them were athletes that I worked with. And then that just trickles down to like, okay, that person, like all 5 of those people tell like 2 other people, so on and so forth. So it's like when you see the success at the high school level, and then now people are coming back and being like, oh, how do I get better at javelin? Okay, out of these top 5 guys, they all work with Dan. So I'm going to work with Dan. So it's just like, I would say online is just harder to build that buy-in from my experience, but it's like, it's good. It's a good option for people that want to do those programs themselves and kind of like work through things. But I mean, it's definitely something that I want to do more of down the road, would be more of the one-on-one online coaching, especially like in the winter time. But it just hasn't been my focus because, like I said, the in-person stuff has been so time consuming the last couple of years.
Well, you said you got an app. What's that process like, getting that developed and everything?
Yeah. So, do you know Dr. Mike
Oh yeah.
Israel?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you want like a really like in-depth podcast to listen to, if you listen to I forgot the guy's name, but his partner, his business partner was on the Coach 'em Up podcast, and they kind of talked about this process a little bit more. But basically, um, the way to do it, there's 2, and then also another person to listen to would be Jordan Syatt. Do you know who that is?
Not by name.
Okay, so he was on the Coach 'em Up podcast recently as well too, but he talked about how there's 2 routes to go. Jordan Syatt did it the way where he basically hired an app, like he hired a person to like come onto his team and develop an app for him. So everything was like customized, and he basically had to like hire this person full time. Or then for me, what I did was I hired a company that does fitness apps, and what they do is they have like one app that they just brand towards your brand, and then they reproduce it over like, everyone that works with them has essentially the same app, but they brand it towards you. And then all of the workout programs and videos I upload manually, and then all of the like free resources and guides I uploaded manually as well. So like basically I pay a flat fee each year, and then they run the app for me. So like I don't have to worry about the development process. So it's like it's probably got like 95% of what I would want in an app. Like the only thing that there's certain customizations that I would want to have, but they don't necessarily offer them because it's not like a custom app for me. They basically have it white labeled. So that same template of an app is reproduced. If Brett wanted to sign up, he would get the same app as me. They would put his logo on it, and then Brett would upload his workout videos and then his free resources. And if you did the same thing, it would be like that. Jordan Syatt said that he put over $300,000 into this app, and he basically he has to like pay this person as like a full-time staff member as well. So it's like he's paying, basically like hundreds of thousands of dollars, whereas mine was like less than $5,000 a year. So it's like one of those things where it's cool, and it still takes a lot of work, but I basically am able to outsource a lot of it to them, and they're able to do it. So like there's different platforms like that. There's I would say exercise.com is who I use. And then you have Trainerize is another one where, like, for example, one of my friends, Lucas Hardy, who's Range of Strength, he uses Trainerize. So there's just like different ways of doing it there.
Yeah, I first used Trainerize getting started. That was just the one recommended to me, and I pretty much did what exactly what you mentioned. It's a Trainerize platform, but you pay, a small little X amount of money, and you get your brand logo on there, and you can upload videos, or you can use what you have. So I use that, and now I just use Train Heroic. I've been using it for, shoot, I don't know, probably a year. It's I
Yeah.
know I know
That's
you
what
use
I
it too,
use.
Brett.
Yeah.
What do
What
you
I,
like? Do you like it?
Yeah, I mean it
It
does the
does the
job.
job.
Yeah, it does
Yep.
the job. I mean, I love just having a workout app plan that they can just plug in numbers and leave notes and have it on their phone. I've only used two. I've used Team Builder and I use Train Heroic, and I'm very familiar with both. And they have pros and cons of each, but I'm happy with Train Heroic and staying with them and using that to just because you can have your programs, your one-off programs, you can have that sold on your own little store. You can have like a recurring team option, and then I personally use it majority for my one-on-one online clients just to have
Yeah, same.
a much more clean looking spreadsheet because you send spreadsheets, I always get it back and there's like 10 different ones that they added by accident because they just keep pressing the plus button. And I was like, all right, this looks terrible now, or they just don't
The
input the
cla
number.
the Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah, I used Google Sheets for a while, but they just and then you got to format
Honestly,
it.
really like Google Sheets, but that's just me.
I
Yeah.
like how it looks, and I think it looks great. And then you could have
And
it
then they
printed
mess
out.
it up when they give it back to you.
Yeah, always. Oh, when they send it back, I was like, this looks like shit. Like, what'd you do?
Yeah.
but one thing I was going to say was what's helpful for my app as well is like when people download mine in order, I basically have my whole free course inside the app. So when people download it, they'll see all my free resources, which I have like on 15 different topics. So that's the main draw to download the app. But in order to get that, you have to make an account. So then basically anyone that is on their account then gets added to my email list and my free community. So that's kind of like how I use it to help my business is because I mean there's people that are on the app for like a year and then they're getting the emails for a year or they're using the free community for the year or they're using the free course for the year and then a year later they end up signing up for training. So it's kind of like more of for me like I like having my own branded app because I have my free course in there and then it gets people in my ecosystem and then also like my all my scheduling for my one-on-one clients is automatically like through the app as well, which is cool because there's like a scheduling feature in there for me. So it's cool because like right when I basically if I have a one-on-one client, I'll go from like their calendar in the app to like my calendar, make an appointment, and then it like creates the Zoom call like automatically, like the Zoom link and sends it to them, and then I have it. So it's pretty good, but it's not perfect, you know.
Yeah. Nothing is.
Yeah.
Zach, tell us a little bit about some of your goals now going into the new year. You just left the unit, you got your own gig, you're trying to figure stuff out. You can go two ways with this. You can go coaching business route or you could go personal fitness route or just give both.
So I would say the coaching at business is more, I would say more on the to be determined side because previous years I've had very specific business sort of goals as far as, number of clients, revenue, high school, college. I haven't had any pros yet, but athlete breakdown. And so I'm kind of tweaking that a little bit. But I would say from the personal side, as far as training goes, because I just like to get after it, it's pretty much everything that I failed at on my previous year's goals. So, I've just got metrics for all the main compound lifts. Then, I'm still trying to dunk, and it's being a short man is a little bit difficult to do that, but still trying to do that. I want to run sub 4.540, 22 miles per hour on a fly. So those would be all my metrics from a personal standpoint and a summarization standpoint. But yeah, from the business side, I'm really trying to determine, if I want to take out a loan and get a facility or rent something or just continue with the online established clientele and try to keep building that brand. So that's really more just up in the air at this point. Just gotta be objective and try to see what I actually want to do with all of that.
Yeah, I mean, they're all great goals. You ever think about competing at Apex?
Yeah, dude. So that's definitely something that I would like to get back into because I mean, yeah, it's fun to train hard and all that, but I feel like I'm very competitive. I just need to be striving for something. So I definitely want to get back into competing. Um, so definitely I thought about Apex. I don't know if I'd be able to do the next one upcoming. It's just kind of all contingent, but actually getting into some sort of competitive or just some sort of competition. I just feel like that's definitely something that I'm missing at this point. I really need to scratch that itch.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, I
What
just want to
about
get.
you? Well, first of all, how's your hip doing?
It's getting there. I mean, I think tomorrow will be week. What's today? Wednesday? Yeah, tomorrow's third. It'll be week 6 tomorrow. It's getting there. It's moving along. I got 2 weeks before I see the doctor again, and hopefully I could just be cleared to do stuff that doesn't hurt. I'm probably far off from sprinting and jumping. Just nowhere near there yet, but I'm able to do just low level rehab exercises right now. I've been following David Gray's hip rehab. Still,
I actually bought one of his programs in the past, so he's the man.
you get 20% off all the other ones now if you use that discount code too. I think you get one every time you buy one. So yeah, but I haven't been able to progress to phase two. He said phase one is the same workout 3 times a week, and he says to do it for 1 week. I've been doing it for 4 weeks. I've been doing the exact same workout for 4 weeks because I tried to progress onto that phase two, and that first movement was like a wide stance good morning, and I like couldn't move. I was like, yeah, hip's not ready for that yet. Gotta keep because it's not made for post surgery rehab. It's for like people with like a little bit of pain,
Yeah,
like to get them feeling
you're
better.
trying to push the envelope.
Yeah, I'm not pushing nothing. I literally did half a rep and I was like, I'm just gonna go back to what didn't hurt before. So doing a lot of low level like breathing, PRI stuff. I'm still able to do some split squat isometrics and some glute bridges. But that's about it. Yeah, training's been extremely boring with the lower half. Upper half's been feeling pretty good, but
Are you
definitely
getting pretty jacked?
the upper body is, yeah. Lower body is just. I was joking with my friends like you don't get that hormonal response from that set of bench press like every other day.
Yeah.
You
Well,
want to squat again.
what exactly did you have done surgically wise?
So they had to go in and they had to shave down the ball of the femur and they had to shave that down. They had to fix up some there was some missing cartilage because I had impingement. So they
Yep.
had to take that shaved bone, create a paste graft thing, put it into the missing cartilage, let that settle. And then they didn't tell me my labrum was destroyed until after surgery because they didn't see it on the MRI. But he's like, yeah, we went in there. He showed me the pictures like a week or two after. And he's like, yeah, your labrum was fried up. It looked like a really old rope, and everything was just like all ripped to shreds. So they had to go and repair that. So I had a bunch of
Okay.
things in there to like prevent it from having to get a full replacement. Pretty much, I've been telling people it's just a preventative hip surgery, so I didn't have to get it replaced in the next 5 years.
Was that wear and tear or was it something acute?
Wear and tear, wear and tear. I've always had that hip issue, probably for like 2 years before I actually got it checked out. But then if I didn't sprint or jump that much, like if I didn't really sprint that much, I didn't really notice it. So in the bursts, I was just squatting and lifting and jumping. But then as soon as I tried to get back into sprinting, it would flare up. And then I would just stop sprinting. And then there was at a point I was like, I should really get it checked out. And that's what led me to like the brain side to try to fix it up neurologically and try to
Yeah.
like
Trying to tell
gaslight.
it to start working.
Yeah, try to gaslight my brain into telling my hip it doesn't hurt. And then I went through. Went through about 6 weeks of that, and that's pretty much what led me to having all those people on the podcast too. Like very selfishly try to figure it out and work on it myself.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
you
and
get
yeah,
some smart cats on there.
yeah,
Yeah, they all the stuff the stuff works if you don't have missing cartilage in your hip that is just always rubbing into it. And I didn't want to wait the 2+ years that I could have done just manually rehabbing it myself. I really think I would have slammed my head through a wall if I had to wait that long to like fix it myself. So I was like, I might as well
That
just.
did they recommend that you not do the surgery and try to self rehabilitate?
I won't say which guests did, but some were saying that you could train around it to make it feel better.
Oh, someone on the podcast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Oh,
they
okay,
were because they were
interesting.
saying you didn't like necessarily need it. But then I saw a couple other guys, and then they were all doing some weird voodoo shit. And then my insurance literally ran out like 2 weeks ago for my parents. So I was like, I'm on my parents' insurance for a month, like a month left. It's like might as well milk it. And
That was the deal breaker.
yeah, I was
yeah.
like, I like if I don't get the surgery now, I'm gonna have to pay for it. And I was like, I don't want to do
You
that.
could
So
also always undo the surgery if you decide to train hard enough if you don't like the way it turned out.
yeah, I could definitely undo the surgery. I could believe me, I've trained stupidly enough to undo the surgery.
Well, I hope it doesn't come to that point.
No, it's surprising now because I just have more range of motion in it. It's just clicky right now and very stiff. So it's been a lot of stationary bike and watching podcasts on it. It's very boring. It's not exciting content at all. Like I don't even bother filming it because it is, I am extremely bored during it too. It's like, this sucks. I was like, no one would watch this. I'm breathing. I'm taking a nap on the turf at a gym that we train at, just looking at my sideline with a foam roller between my legs, just breathing. I was like, this is exhilarating content.
Well, I had a question for you that just popped up because I had a meeting yesterday with a volleyball coach for, a particular doing an off-season program,
What was his
and
name?
this
We had a volleyball coach on once.
what her name's
Was it
Courtney.
No, it
Nick?
was her
Was it?
name.
Oh, it was a girl. Never mind.
Oh no, this
We
is
had Nick we
th
had Nick Del Bianco on, who, if you want to listen to that podcast, he came on, and that was a good back and forth because he had a ton of good questions about how my javelin training could relate back to volleyball, like the spike action of the overhead. But
yeah.
anyway, continue. I was wondering if it was the same guy.
Oh no, this is local Nashville. So, but I just had a meeting with her yesterday and just was talking about doing contracting out coaching for a team for a certain period of time. And I'd seen that you'd worked with I remember you posted something about a hockey team in the past. So just
Yeah.
curious, what your experience up to this point has been with working with full teams because that's obviously something that I wanted to do, you can scale that more. You can focus your time more accordingly. And then, you get a bunch of people at once. I mean, it's good financially. So I'm just curious, what your experience is with that.
I loved it. I mean, that's been the only team that I've worked with fully is that because the school I worked with, Albertus Magnus, they don't have a dedicated training and conditioning program for any of their sports. And I had a connection through my old job with working with these four girls that are on the team. They got me connected. Well, one was really avid. She's an avid listener to this show too, so she might be hearing this. So shout her out. But she got me connected with the coach. I talked to the coach a little bit. We just came to a decision on the price, and there was really no back and forth. I mean, again, I'm getting lucky a lot of these times where I'm not having to wheel and deal some business decisions. Just this kind of fell in my lap. I got to talk to the coach, and then I was there the next week. We had to work it out because we couldn't use their weight room, so we were against the bees and the weather. Again, very lucky and fortunate. The 5 weeks we were there, we did 10 total sessions. It didn't rain once, and we were outside for all the sessions. It was a little cold, but wasn't that big of a deal. But I did the same thing. I did a test and retest. I had the spreadsheet and was able to showcase their numbers. The retest, there was huge difference. I mean, you go, but I wasn't doing,
They made you look really good.
they made me look phenomenal. They did. But and then I just put it into Chat GPT and said, "Tell me who's the best five girls out of these numbers," and then they jutted it out and they formatted because dude, I was looking through because I had three different spreadsheets. I had the pre, I had the middle test, and I had the post test. So like I had all a bunch of different numbers for all these different girls, and some girls didn't show up. Some girls like did really well on one drill and then had to sit out the next because everyone's banged up and injured when you have a hockey team that doesn't have a strength program. Like 90% of them were always hurt. So you're trying to like putting out fires. And I loved it because it kind of gave me a lot of things to think about and do.
Hmm.
So working with them, it was not an ideal situation just because I did a remote strength conditioning portion for them. And then the field work we did was all speed, plyo, isometric body weight movement circuits, working on change of direction and just teaching them different like angles and cuts that they could take just to get better at moving. And then I gave them a 3 time a week, like bare bones strength conditioning, train aerobic. I had them all on the team. So I did have to pay a little extra for that because train aerobic just, if you don't know, if you have people that exceed the number that you're paying for in the plan, they'll just up it immediately. They won't ask you. Like they'll just give you that next tier up. So just
Okay.
make sure you know how many people you got because I wasn't paying attention and I saw the price come out of my account. I was like, oh damn, that's way more than I thought it'd be.
Even if you just have it listed as a team,
Yeah, yep. It's still
interesting.
if it's not a team that I think you can sell on the marketplace. I think it's if it's like a team that you invite them onto.
Yeah, I'll say that that's the good thing about my app is because they are like a smaller business than Train Heroic. So like for me, it was the same thing. It's like if I was under 50 people on one-on-one training on the app, then it would be a certain amount per month, and then it would go up if I exceeded 50. And then I think there was like an unlimited tier. And last year, because I was like I exceeded 50 for probably like 2 months last year, but then I have like my really busy time of year, and then it goes down to like 45, and then so on and so forth. So they were just like, yeah, I mean, if it's only going to be like that for like a month or two, then it's not a big deal. So it was one of those things where they wouldn't automatically do it. They would, if they noticed more than 50 on there for, extended period of time, they would reach out and say I had to, get the next tier up. But a little bit more of that like mom and pop feel, I
Was that
guess.
for exercise.com?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the good thing about that too is like I don't know how Train Heroic works, but like I had a question because like I had to get my statements from like 2025, and then a couple other like just other unrelated questions. It's like I have like a contact guy that I could meet with like literally pretty much whenever I need to. So like we just set up a Zoom meeting and went over all that like business related stuff with the taxes and the merchant fees and like getting my 1099 form from them and stuff like that. So that's what I liked about them is because they're a smaller business, so I'm a little bit more one to one with my point of contact there. So it was cool.
Yeah, but I recommend training with the team. I mean, if you can get a price that makes sense and that makes it worthwhile and the scheduling all lines up, it's not whatever you think it's going to be. It's probably going to be way different because everything changes so fast. Like that's how I was. I was expecting the weight room and doing all that stuff, and then it wasn't that. But it's still we made it work, and it was fun. And they actually just passed most wins in school program history this year,
Dog.
and I think they're
Courtesy of the Hitman.
courtesy of the hitman. Yeah, but it was cool to see. You don't realize that impact because you have no because I can't see them on the ice. I don't know how they're looking, and like I wish I could have been a little bit more involved with like the sport side of things. But I don't know shit about hockey, but I know how to get them a little faster and feel better. And then you see the wins, you're like, that's making me look pretty good. So I was glad I was able to help with that.
Were they a public or private school?
They're a D3 private college.
Oh, college. Okay.
Yeah, they're college.
Because I was gonna say something that I've noticed based on just talking to people in the industry, overtime athletes, people I know in Nashville, a lot, and just coaches and schools I've connected with. A lot of these public schools for high school, they don't really have any sort of designated strength and conditioning coach especially for their girls sports, but even just some of them besides football. Like, so that's a good way to work with their teams. And private school is a little bit more difficult because they're gonna have more money. They're gonna have, some coach that thinks he knows everything, and it's just hard to get in. But from my experience, like getting in with teams, public schools is for high school. It's a good way to get in. And one of my connections here, he was just the track coach for one of the local high schools. He was actually the guy that got me linked up with training D1 football player from Tennessee State, but his school didn't even have a strength coach for any of the programs, and so they just asked him to do everything and just paid him more. So there's just a lot of opportunity there from what I've seen.
Especially around here too, because that's just not a thing that really happens. Like a lot of it is just the football coach running it for their teams or the baseball coach running it for their teams. Like I worked with a private high school when I was at my old job, like just to be inserted, but that was all because the head coach wanted it. As soon as the head coach left, a new guy came in. He wanted nothing to do with us. He did it himself, and a lot of them are. The town we're in, I almost said it, but like the town we're in is just they have a lot more restrictions. Like you can't just be like a coach to go in and work strength and conditioning. You kind of need, I believe you need some type of education certification through the town to be able to go into it. Do you know more about this?
Really,
You
to
said
work
this,
to
but yeah,
work with
I
a
thought this was
high
what, yeah.
school.
For high school, yeah, they're very like the people that run, because our town has two big public high schools. We're in a really big town, so they have a lot of you have to be with like the district and have some type of teacher experience. I think you need to work with the school in order to actually be a strength coach there. You can't, they're not really big on hiring independent contractors to come in as like a freelance strength and conditioning job.
You got to be born and raised here.
Is that
You need
right?
you need the sticker on your car.
Well, that's interesting because in Tennessee, I didn't know it till I lived here. It wasn't really like this from my understanding, Mississippi, but a lot of these coaches at these schools are non-faculty. So there's a lot of opportunity for private contracting, for someone like in my instance.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case here though, unfortunately. Just from what I've seen. I mean, there's some private schools that have their affiliation with different gyms, but again, in our area, dude, there's so many sports performance gyms that are just like sprinkled around that it's kind of impossible to figure out where everyone is at the exact moment. Like you don't know what the window of opportunity is, because if one person leaves, you might have just a week before you even realize it, and then it's already filled up by another gym. So it's important to stay on top of things, especially in this area. It's almost like you need your own facility though. Like you need your brand and gym to like have people know about you.
It's especially if you work with athletes or want to work with more athletes, doing coaching online and having that model is great. But if you're really trying to grow, like you just need to have an in-person presence and a brick and mortar. It's just really tough, I think, with athletes.
100%, yeah, because they're so seasonal. Everyone just keeps revolving door. No, it's cool to hear different stories and different upbringings and different influences that people have, because it seems like we have a lot in common, but we're on totally different journeys. I said the same thing with the episode with TJ, who is a head sports director at a D3 school. We had a very similar upbringing, went to the same school, had very similar influences, but we're doing completely separate things. And I think that's just always great to talk about and to understand that there's a million different ways to get the outcome you want. And for the most of us, it's to help as many athletes as we possibly can.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'll regurgitate that, and yeah, appreciate you fellas for having me on. Love talking shop, talking training, coaching. Of course, it was good to meet you, Dan and Brett, in person or virtually.
This
So
counts as in person now in 2026. Zoom calls
yeah,
count as in person.
Face to
Zoom
face.
calls.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll count it.
count it. Well, Zach, I appreciate you hopping on, taking the time to talk with us. I'm looking forward to other things that you might have to say inside the school community. And
Yes, sir.
have a great rest of your day.
All right, gentlemen. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in.
And if you enjoyed it, please leave a 5-star rating and review and share the show, because the only way that this show grows is if you like it, share it, and tell your friends and family about it.
New episode every Monday.